doesn't matter if you sell sewing patterns or something else on Etsy, these tips are for you. And I am inching closer and closer to my second very ambitious goal for today that I'm really overwhelmed with happiness. I've worked so hard. You guys, I'm straight beaming with excitement today because I launched my second sewing pattern on my Etsy shop and I can't even express how well it's doing already. I did have some sales goals for today, but I thought they were super ambitious and I hit them literally before noon, and I launched this pattern at 6 a.m. If you hear my phone buzzing in the background, it's because my Etsy shop literally has not stopped popping off since I launched the pattern this morning, and I can't even tell you how excited I am. I pour so much love, time, and care and energy into these patterns, so for them to be successful is a huge win for me. And not only is it a win in the sense that other people have these patterns in their hands now and they get to create my designs, but also it's a win in the sense that the money is reflecting the hard work. So with all that being said, I'm going to share some insights into my Etsy shop that will hopefully help you be successful on Etsy as well. It doesn't matter if you sell sewing patterns or something else on Etsy, these tips are for you. Now, before we jump into all of the juicy details, I want to say a big thank you to ALYSSA for sponsoring today's video. I've been following ALYSSA for literally years now, and the first time I purchased from them was back in 2021. One of my favorite YouTube creators, Chloe Kean, did a collaboration with them where she designed a pair of earrings. They're these really gorgeous gold hoops, and honestly, I've been wearing them nearly every single day since I purchased them. They've been super durable, even though I've worn them in the shower, which I don't necessarily recommend that you do. But that being said, they've totally stood the test of time and I love them. If you've been following me for any length of time, you know that I'm always wearing gold jewelry. I even put it on if I'm not planning to leave the house for the day because it helps me feel more put together. So when ALYSSA reached out and they offered to send me a few items, I was so excited to say yes. Not only do they make absolutely beautiful and durable jewelry, but they also care about the environment. They sent me this really beautiful bracelet, this super timeless necklace, and these amazing gold hoops. I'm over the moon that I get to integrate these pieces into my handmade wardrobe, and if you want to check them out, I'll have a code linked on the screen for you right now, and down below in the description you can find all of the information on the jewelry that I've shown you today. Now let me take you back to only a month and a half ago when I launched my first ever Etsy product. That product was the tapioca trouser pattern and it came in at $16. Now mind you, at this point in time, I still only have two patterns, the tapioca trousers and then the sunrise skirt, which I launched today. Before launching my trouser pattern, I was really grappling with whether or not I should use Etsy as a platform to sell on at all. The alternative is obviously having your own website, but at that point in time, I did not have any disposable income to be spending on that. So ultimately I chose Etsy because one, it's free to use, kind of, which I'll get back to in a bit, but it's free to start out on, and two, because Etsy already has tons and tons of customers that can view my product without me getting in front of them on my social media channels. When I first launched the tapioca trousers, I probably only had about 1,000 subscribers on YouTube and 1,000 followers on Instagram. In the grand scheme of the social media world, that is truly not a lot of people. That said, if I had 1,000 people in the room right now that wanted to purchase my sewing pattern, I would be ecstatic. However, as you probably know, 1,000 followers does not actually equate to 1,000 sales. Honestly, super far from it. In a pool of 1,000 people, there are probably 10 or 20 people that are your golden fans and would buy any product that you put out there because they really just like you and they want to support you. Other than that, you actually need a really good product in order for people to want to buy it. Now that might seem kind of obvious, but hear me out here. There are literally so many products on Etsy that are not worth purchasing. There are lots of people just trying to make a quick buck and they'll log on to their Canva account, use a super generic and free template, and they're gonna try to sell you a calendar or something. That calendar is something you could create for free very fast on your own, and it is not worth purchasing. With this in mind, make sure that you're putting a quality product out there, because if you don't, you're going to get nasty customer reviews and nobody wants that for their Etsy shop. It will tank your Etsy shop so fast. You also want to think about things that are going to set your product listing apart from others. So for example, in the sewing pattern world, I'm focusing on size inclusive patterns with really detailed instructions and illustrations, as well as a YouTube tutorial that goes along with every single one of my patterns, and I'm making unique and timeless designs. So the tapioca trousers launched a month and a half ago, and they probably took me about 3 months to make. Now mind you, this is the first ever sewing pattern that I designed, so it took a lot more time than I think it will in the future, and my sunrise skirt only took a month and a half to make, but that That being said, a single one of my patterns costs $16. Now, unfortunately, $16 in the Etsy world does not actually equate to 16 whole dollars in your pocket. There are many a fee involved in Etsy. There's a 20-cent product listing every time you list a new product. There's also a percentage taken out for like credit card fees. There's a percentage taken out for this, that, and the other thing. And after all is said and done, I'm probably making about $14 every single time someone purchases a pattern. It feels a little gut-wrenching, honestly, to work on something for 3 months and only be able to sell it for $14 a pop. But that being said, digital products are something that you put a lot of upfront time and effort into, and then hopefully if you made a good digital product, it'll continue to sell for many, many years to come. So while I still haven't seen the full fruit of my labor, hopefully I will continue to make money off of these patterns. Now that said, let me go ahead and pull up my sales from the tapioca trousers so we can take a little deep dive into them. Okay, now let's take it back to day one of my Etsy shop in my analytics, which was April 28th. On April 28th, I launched the tapioca trousers. I had 702 visits to my Etsy shop. I made 44 orders, which is a conversion rate of 6.3, which I think is pretty high. And my revenue was $557.60. I'm so excited to share the comparison from day one of the tapiocas to day one of the sunrise skirt because the difference in sales is insane. So for not having a very large social media following, I would say that 44 orders on my first day is pretty good. I ran a sale that day and I blasted it to all my Instagram followers, and I didn't really know what I should be expecting in terms of sales. That said, I've obviously made sales on this pattern since day one of the launch, and it's been consistently bringing in a handful of orders each week, but you can't really depend on it because you don't know if it's going to be 0 orders or 10 orders. It's kind of just hit and miss at this point. Although I don't think I've actually had a single week of 0 orders. Okay, so now I'm going to pull up how much money I've made in the past month and a half on just the tapioca trouser pattern alone. Since April 28th, I've done 140 sales on the tapioca trousers, which is $1,962.21 in revenue. I've also had 2,888 visits to my Etsy shop. I'd also like to note that my Instagram has significantly increased in followers since this point. In the past like 4 or 6 weeks, I've gained like 7,000 followers, and I'm sitting somewhere in the neighborhood of like 8,000 followers. So obviously that plays into this, but those followers actually came to me because of the tapioca trouser pattern. So what exactly made the tapioca trouser pattern as successful as it is? While I've only made $2,000 on the tapioca trousers in exchange for like 3 months of a lot of hard work on the pattern, I think that I've done a really good job overall, and I'm super, super happy with the results. Like I said, this pattern is going to continue to make money for me over time, so the fact that I'm only sitting at $2,000 doesn't really worry me. Now let's talk about why I think the tapioca trouser pattern was so successful, other than the fact that I think I made a really high quality product. The pattern launched on a Friday, and I ran a promo code through the rest of the weekend. It's important to note that I ran a promo code and not a sale. The difference is that a promo code is actually a code that users will put in when they're at checkout, and it'll offer them a discount. I set the code to $2 off of the purchase, so rather than paying $16, they were only paying $14. A sale, on the other hand, would have applied to the product for any customer who wanted to purchase it. I didn't really realize what I was doing at the time, but looking back, it was a great move to use a promo code instead of a sale. The reason that is because certain people want to support your business at its fullest price point, and they don't actually want the sale. I had quite a lot of people who had access to the code specifically not use it because they wanted to give me the full value of the product. If I had simply run a sale on that pattern, I would have been missing out on extra money that my followers wanted to give me. So keep in mind that I think running a promo code is significantly better than running a sale. Also, offering a promo code in general incentivizes people to want to purchase from you. And promo codes come with an expiration date, so it offers this sense of urgency and makes people want to purchase as soon as possible. Obviously, for a brand new Etsy shop or any Etsy shop in general, that is a great thing. Now, in terms of the Etsy listing itself, let's talk about some things that I did to optimize its performance. The reason that you want to optimize your Etsy listing is because you want Etsy to continue to push your listing to customers in the Etsy platform, not just your own customers that you're bringing to the Etsy platform. So to do this, it's super important to do some SEO research. SEO stands for search engine optimization. It's a pretty big term, and if you've never heard about it before, it's probably pretty intimidating. Honestly, I've spent hours and hours and hours and hours and hours on end researching SEO so that I could have an optimized YouTube channel, an optimized Etsy channel, an optimized Etsy shop, and an optimized Instagram. Now, don't let the fact that I've done a lot of research scare you into thinking that you also have to do a lot of research, and that's because of this cool new thing called ChatGPT. I was so wary of using ChatGPT because honestly, the idea of robots taking over the world kind of scares me, but you can utilize ChatGPT in a way that serves you and helps you gain money faster without having to pour hours and hours and hours of search into SEO. I actually used ChatGPT for the first time to help me optimize my listing for the sunrise score, and I'm really glad that I did because it offered some great suggestions. Now, I didn't use all of the suggestions from ChatGPT because it is a robot and I want it to sound like there's a human behind my patterns, so you can take that into consideration, but it's a great starting point. So what you're gonna do is log on to ChatGPT. It's absolutely free and you're basically just going to ask it questions. You could say something along the lines of, hey ChatGPT, I'm writing up an Etsy listing. This is what it's about. These are some things that I want to highlight in the listing. Can you help me make an SEO optimized listing? It's honestly so convenient and so easy and so fast. Within seconds, ChatGPT will start answering you back with an entire list of things to do. It offers super easy and actionable information, and it's also super detailed. So do yourself a favor and try out ChatGPT if you are an Etsy seller, which you probably are because you're watching this video. Okay, pause for a second because it is 3 o'clock. I just checked my Etsy sales again, and I am inching closer and closer to my second very ambitious goal for today that I really didn't think was possible, and I am like just a few sales away from reaching that goal. I seriously can't tell you how freaking excited I am. I'm gonna share all of those numbers with you at the very end of this video. I'm actually gonna wait until tonight so that I have a full day of sales and you can see how well my pattern did on its first day of launch. Okay, all of that excitement aside, let's get back into why I think my tapioca trouser pattern is doing so well on Etsy. Before launching the pattern, I actually reached out to some other Etsy sellers in my niche who are doing really well, and I kind of just asked for their general advice. Now, I don't necessarily recommend that you go cold calling or cold texting or cold emailing these people, but I did have a relationship with these people via Instagram before I reached out to them, so there was kind of that rapport there and I didn't feel uncomfortable asking them for advice. If you don't have a relationship already formed with other Etsy sellers, I would recommend maybe not reaching out to them. The only reason that is because you're asking for advice, which a lot of people would pay for, but you're asking for it for free, so there's kind of a gray line there, but hey, you do whatever you want. So anyways, I reached out to them and they kindly offered me some advice. The thing that I found most important and totally took to heart is using every single one of the options that Etsy gives you when you're creating a listing. So that means 9 high quality pictures for your listing, 1 video for your listing. It only needs to be like 5 to 10 seconds long. It's really not a big deal. Using all of the hashtags possible, creating a detailed description, a detailed title, the whole shebang. Basically, when you're creating your Etsy listing, make sure that every single optional section is filled out. Etsy doesn't just put all of those options out there for giggles. There's obviously a reason to use them. If you optimize your listing to the best of your ability, you are more likely to get your listing in front of new eyes. Etsy wants to promote good products, but it's not going to know that your product is good unless it has all of the possible information that it could. So be really diligent when creating your listing, otherwise you're missing out on potential sales, and why would we do that? This is a business. We're trying to make money here. So with all that being said, we've optimized our listing, we've created a promo code, we've sent out our listing. Now it's time to reach every single possible person that you can who might be interested in your product. For me, the best way to do that is through my Instagram and my YouTube. But if you don't have a social media following, and even if you don't plan to create a social media following, that's totally okay. There are other ways to get your product in front of people's eyes. If you're not into social media, I would recommend that you allocate a bit of money to promoting your product. You can do that through the Etsy ads, you can do that through Facebook ads, you could do that through Google ads. There are so many different ways to do this, and really, you don't have to spend a lot of money. You could maybe try doing $10 for the week or something to that effect. But honestly, if you have the disposable income, you might consider putting more money into it, because in this case, money makes money. Now, full disclosure, I haven't run a single ad on my Etsy shop, and I don't really plan to. It's gaining enough organic traction as it is, so I don't really see the need to pour money into that. But like I said, if you don't have social media, it might be a good route for you to go. So the whole point here is that you want to and you need to gain traction on your Etsy shop in order for Etsy to continue pushing your products. I think within the very first day of becoming an Etsy seller, Etsy sent me a notification saying that I'm now a star seller, and you could become a star star seller for a handful of reasons. Mine had to do with the fact that I had a lot of views on my Etsy shop, and it literally went from 0 to quite a lot pretty fast because I launched one product and had been promoting it prior to the launch. But once you become a star seller, Etsy pushes your product to their customers because it knows that it's a good product that people want to buy. That means that even if you don't have a large social media following, Etsy is doing the work for you. And this is exactly the reason that I'm actually super glad that I ended up choosing Etsy over choosing a website. Now, in the grand scheme of things, I think that I would prefer to have an Etsy shop and a website, but at the time it just didn't make financial sense for me, and Etsy was a great option. So while Etsy does take a considerable portion of your sales, you can just factor that into the price of your product and consider that it's bringing you more views than you would have potentially gotten if you only had your own website. Now let's move past all the boring analytics and SEO and things of that nature and talk about a few more things that I did to make my patterns successful. There's something that sets sewing pattern products apart from other niches that I want to share with you, because if you're in a different niche, I think it's really, really important and can help you grow in a significant way. And that is that we do a pattern testing. Basically what that means is before launching a pattern, you do a tester application call. I did mine on my Instagram and it was wildly successful. I basically put out a Google form for people to fill out, and essentially they would get my pattern for free in exchange for testing it. I gave them a specific window of time that I wanted the garment to be done by, and I asked for their feedback. That's kind of a simplification of the process, but it's really all that you need to know if you're in a different niche. And if you're in the same niche as me, then you already know what a pattern testing is. Obviously, doing a testing will help make your product better because people are going to offer you feedback so you can adjust accordingly. The better your product, the more likely it is to sell. But that's not the only reason that you might want to do a pattern testing. Although that's a significant portion of the process, you'll also want to take into consideration that people are going to want to share your product if it's a good product, especially if you're receptive to their feedback and you actually change the product accordingly to make it better. So for you, that might look like giving your product to a handful of people to try out, and then they can organically talk about it. And in my case, I did a full tester application call, and I had literally over 100 applicants in the first 24 hours. I had to shut it down because it was so many applicants. And then I chose about 30 people to test for me, which was perfect. And ultimately, those people were really excited about the pattern, and then they wanted to share it on their Instagram. Especially in the sewing community, when you make a garment or an item that you're super, super proud of, you want to share it with the world. And so that's really helpful in the promotion process. Now, the next step past that for me is that there were a handful of people that I just simply wasn't able to choose for the testing. So for my sunrise skirt pattern, I actually offered all of them a special discount that was only for the people that were willing to test for me. Everyone else got a different promo code, but I wanted to reward the people that were willing to help me in the process of my pattern. Because I knew that I intentionally wanted to do this for my sunrise skirt pattern, I actually left the application open for significantly longer, and I ended up having over 300 people who wanted to test for me. Also, when you put out a tester application call, people in the sewing community are really excited about it. They want to participate in the process, and so a lot of people will share it, which is why I got so many people interested. So anyways, I chose about 30 testers again for the sunrise skirt testing, and then everyone else I sent an email with a specific promo code that was just for them. On the back end of my Etsy analytics, I can see what discounts are being used, which was super helpful because it shows me that the discount that I sent to my testers is actually being used, and it's being used quite a lot. It's not really a surprise to me that this promo code has been significantly used today because the people who wanted to test for me were already interested in purchasing the pattern before it came out. So the fact that I offered them a special discount code that was more than any other discount code that was out there helps incentivize them to purchase something that they already want and at a lower price point. Depending on the niche that you're in and the products that you're focusing on, this type of marketing may work for you or it may not, but it is something to consider. Now, one more thing that I think is super underrated in all of the other niches that sewing patterns actually do is they use a hashtag for their patterns. So for example, my trouser pattern is hashtag tapioca trousers and my skirt pattern is hashtag sunrise skirt. The titles are easy to remember, which I think is super important, but even more than that, having a hashtag where potential customers can go and see your product is super, super valuable. My customers can simply take a scroll through the hashtag and see if the product is working for other people and basically see if it's also going to work for them. It's a great resource that is super underutilized in other niches, so it's something you should definitely consider. Now that you have all of the juicy details of my Etsy shop, I will see you tonight so we can talk about the sales from the first day of the launch of the sunrise skirt pattern. You guys, it's not quite the end of the day. It's only 7 o'clock. But I hit my goal today. And I thought that share it with you because I'm so thankful. I hit 100 orders today and I really didn't think it was possible. I'm really overwhelmed with happiness. I've worked so hard on these patterns and just really truly making them the best that they could possibly be. I've sacrificed so much. So yeah, there was my goal. I was hoping that I would hit 100 orders. I really truly didn't think that it was attainable. My first goal for the day was making $1,000 and I did. I hit that one before noon. That was also a goal that I didn't think was attainable. So to be at this point over 100 orders, the pattern's only been up on my website since 6 a.m. so for 12 hours and I got 100 orders in the past 12 hours. I'm really truly overwhelmed and so thankful. So I figure now's a good time to wrap up the video. Sorry, I'm a total mess. I'm just very happy and honestly I'm really proud of myself. Entrepreneurship can be really hard. There's a lot of times where you feel like you should quit, mostly because you're not making enough money to survive. And I've been thankful to be in a situation where I could continue doing what I was doing even though I wasn't making enough money to pay the bills, which partially included the fact that I had saved a lot of money in order to be able to quit my job and do something entrepreneurial full-time. And while I'm still not at a point where I'm making enough money to pay the bills, and hopefully I'll be there soon, it seems like it's on the right track to do that. Yeah, I'm just so glad that I've had this opportunity. Okay, let's try to make the tear stop and get into some numbers for today. Let me pull up my computer, my Etsy shop. Okay, so I'm just looking at the statistics for today alone. Today, my shop had 825 visits. I've made 102 orders so far. I have 2,261 views. I'm not so sure why my views are significantly higher than my visits. It seems like it would make sense for them to be the same because the amount of people who visit your shop should be the amount of views, but maybe it's like people coming to my shop over and over again. I'm not totally sure. But anyways, that's the number there. My revenue is $1,665 from today alone. That's so much more than I thought was possible. Don't get me wrong, like, I totally believe in the work that I'm putting out there. I didn't expect this much support in a single day. So if you supported me today, or if you're supporting me in the future, or if you're supporting me right now by watching this video, thank you so much. This journey has been wildly rewarding. As you can tell, I'm a mess right now. And if you're also on this journey and it's feeling really hard, I would encourage you to keep going because it's so worth it. Yeah, I'm a bit of a mess, but I want to remind you that Louisa did sponsor this video. I have a discount code for you, which I'll have on the screen and down below in the description, as well as the links to all of the pieces that I'm wearing. I'm really grateful that I get to work with them, and I'm really grateful for you for being here. Thank you so much for supporting my channel, for supporting my Etsy shop, for supporting my sewing journey. I appreciate you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you.